1007.
Yeah, I had an attitude.
35192. Want to send me a text. AlanCoxShow.com to watch. By the way, thanks. I never got to mention Lemmy Waxtershire, who's been helping out in the video department today. Thank you so much. I assume that's short for Lemuel.
Yeah.
Waxtershire. Thanks. Cavs are off tonight. They lose by 12 in Sacramento last night, 132 to 120. It was the final. They'll take tonight off. And then tomorrow night, they'll head up the coast. They'll play the Trailblazers in Portland. That's a 10 o'clock tip. Those West Coast games go late. So 9:30 is when your pregame coverage will get going here on the Buzzard. And you can listen on the iHeartRadio app. If you're so inclined, they're back here at home on Friday for an in-season tournament game against the Detroit Pistons, who I think might currently be the worst team in basketball. But fortunes can change on a dime. The Pistons are 2-9 right now. Now, the Cavs aren't much better, but they are better than the Pistons right now. So, again, what are you going to do about that? I don't know. You're going to support your team is what you're going to do. Next week, I will have Cavaliers tickets for you. We're only here Monday and Tuesday for the holiday week, but I will have Cavs for when the Trailblazers are here on the 30th of this month. That's a Thursday night. So if you want to get your mitts on some Cavs tickets, I'll have those for you next week.
That is such BS. There is no way. Youngstown, Toledo, and Cleveland together is not better than Columbus, let alone Toledo and Youngstown by itself. Hell, Cincinnati's a rat hole. What the hell are you people talking about?
Hey, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just telling you what they said. Cincinnati's the best city in Ohio to live in. How dare you defy U.S. News and World Report? I already explained it to you. They report on U.S. news, and then they report on what's happening around the world. I'm just telling you what.
How dare you?
I'm just telling you what they said.
If you didn't know anything about Cleveland and you were just told, you know, you had to pick somewhere to live, what on the surface would look what place would look the safest?
What do you mean?
Like Tremont, Ohio City, like the surrounding
I mean,
areas.
he did kind of have to do this.
I mean, I did have to do that. I moved here I had been here one time before, and it was to speak on a radio panel. But other than that, I had never been to Cleveland until I moved here.
It's like, I don't know the neighborhoods of Cincinnati, so I'm sure obviously there's some ghetto ones, but like I'm sure there's like nice ones.
Yeah, of course. Like you're going to have like up and coming neighborhoods. I mean, every city is going to have those.
And that's like what I'm worried about the most, because when you hear Cincinnati, I'm like, oh. But then like I knew people that lived in Over the Rhine, which I didn't even know was like a thing.
Yeah.
But,
well, and a couple
like
people, a handful of people texted me in the break. They were like, Cincinnati was part of the gateway to the West. It was the first free town north of Kentucky. So if slaves could get across the river, they could be free, ostensibly, in Cincinnati. Now, I don't know how much that has to do with anything, but historically, that's an interesting thing. Cleveland, by the way, devotion to accuracy, is older than Chicago. We did settle from east to west by about 50 years, at least, you know, when the cities were incorporated, when they were officially made cities. But I think Poundcake Alan is trying to say that Cincinnati doesn't have as many secondary satellite cities like Cleveland. Cleveland has Akron, Youngstown, etc., that can theoretically be described as extra Cleveland. I think Akronites might take umbrage at being described as extra Cleveland.
But
and Youngstown's too far away. Youngstown, according to U.S. News and World Report, it's the second best city in the Buckeye State in which to live, because Youngstown is on the come up. They got a new downtown. They got the Vindies. They got all kinds of stuff there in Youngstown. They got the Boom Boom Mancini Memorial.
It's really weird because I look at places that have their own like TV stations and radio stations, and Youngstown does, but Akron has like a radio station, but they don't have their own TV stations. They go off of Cleveland's. And Canton doesn't have their own TV stations. They go off of Cleveland's. So why does Youngstown get their own?
Well, because there are a lot more radio markets than there are television markets, because those television signals, you can really cover a lot of ground. So TV markets, like the Cleveland television market, is bigger than the Cleveland radio market. I think, given its proximity, when I first moved here, I was surprised that Akron was a separate radio market, because most Cleveland stations are the ones being most listened to in Akron anyway. So when I came here, I was like, oh, those are two. I couldn't figure out why they were two separate markets. Mm-hmm. But they are. I mean, whatever. It's how it's set up. But I had never been to Cleveland until I moved here. So I knew dick about like where to live. You know, I had a week to get an apartment. So I'm like, okay, we just moved into Tremont. And then you kind of get the lay of the land. But for the first year I was living here, all I did was go to home and work and back and forth. So I didn't know where anything was. So if somebody was like, where should I live?
You didn't have a single friend here?
No. Nope. Didn't know anybody here. But that's been the case my whole career. You pack your crap, you move to another city, you don't know anybody. I didn't know anybody in Kalamazoo, Michigan, or Pittsburgh when I moved, you know. So, yeah, you go in blind. And the first year you're in a new city, you're just living where you could get an apartment. You don't know where it is. And then after a year, you go, oh, I want to live over here.
Do you remember?
Because now I know where everything is, and I don't want to live here. So,
do you remember what your first rent was when you moved here?
When I first moved here, it was probably more expensive than it should have been. We moved into that Bible Press building in Tremont. The Tremont Lofts, I think is what it's called. It's an old Bible. It's where the Spotted Owl was, and all the cool stuff went in after we moved out. But no, I don't remember what the rent was, but it was way too much for, you know,
what you're getting.
Yeah, what you're getting. But they were like, oh, it's a new-ish building, and you know, and it's just supply and demand. That, you know, people moved in, but we didn't have a whole lot of time to figure it out, and we didn't know anything. So, you know, my first apartments when I moved into a city were always based on proximity to work. Yep. Because I'm like, I'm going to be at work a lot, most of the time. So I'm like, we're not living on the east side. I mean, I know how weather works. So I'm like, well, I'm not living on the east side because come wintertime, we're going to be up to our necks. And I don't want that. So, and west side was just closer to work. You know, when I first moved to Pittsburgh, we got an apartment like 2 minutes from the radio station. Because I'm like, I'm going to be at work most of the time. And then you kind of get your sea legs and you know where things are and you move. But no, I didn't know anybody here when I moved. Didn't know my way around, didn't know a single person.
I did feel like a true Clevelander the first time, like I didn't have to use my GPS to get somewhere. I just knew, I was like, oh yeah, that's on the east side. And I'm just going down East 4th.
I had one friend. I had a friend.
Bro, you should be driving down East 4th.
It was going to the valet.
I had a friend who worked at. She was in one of the sales girls at my station in Chicago. Was from here and had worked at MMS, so she gave me a couple of like professional contacts, and then an intern of mine did mornings here for a cup of coffee. Christy Cantle.
She's a buddy of mine.
She was an intern of mine in Michigan.
Because when you got hired, I hit her up and I was like, you know this guy? And she's like, I love that guy.
So she wrote me a big, long email about, you know, what to do, who to stay away from. I wish I had read that email to the very end.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
It would have saved me a lot of trouble. But yeah, she kind of got me hip to a little bit to the lay of the land. So that really did help. I don't think she's even in the business anymore, but she and a couple dudes did mornings here for like, boy, a cup of coffee. If you're one of my Instagram followers, you might have seen the video I posted this morning of this deer just standing in front of my car. I pull out of my driveway and there's a deer just standing there, man. They don't give a fudge. And because dusk and dawn It's mating season right now, and there's a lot of horny deer out there. And what this deer was just doing in the middle of my street, standing there, and I sat there, but it was still dark, headlights fully on this deer. And it's just kind of milling around. There's no other cars. But it's the height of mating season. And so these deer are getting frisky.
Horny.
So I don't know if my street was like last call at the bar. I don't know what it was. But this thing did not move. It certainly not. It eventually did, but not because of my car. People are getting their undies in a twist because Cleveland Scene had a thing about safer to hit those deer than to swerve to avoid them. And I imagine they were being somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but all these people got bent out of shape. They're like, that'll wreck your car. I'm sure they're aware of that. I'm sure they're aware that actually hitting a deer will wreck your car.
I think that's for when you're on the highway.
On the highway.
Not when the deer's standing
in front of
driveway.
you. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to gun it and hit a deer.
This is for my own safety, dear. Sorry. I got a family.
I got to look out for myself. I know you're out here trying to get laid, but... So deer are especially likely to be getting it dawn and dusk. And since the sun goes down about 5 o'clock now, you gotta keep your head on a swivel. Because you hear these stories about people who died because they swerved to miss a deer.
That almost
but then
happened
they hit another car. Like, how do you not see the car? Or it just all happened so quickly?
It happened to me. I was driving back to, I lived in Cuyahoga Falls at the time, to Akron.
Oh, this wasn't recently.
Yeah, this is 2008, 2009. I was driving from Youngstown to Cuyahoga Falls, and a deer went out in front of me. I swerved to miss it, and you're going so fast, like you overcorrect, and then all of a sudden I like go down into the median and like jump over the road and land. My car, like all the tires blow out. It's just a mess. Luckily, I didn't really hit anything, and I was okay. But it was rough, and luckily, it was also late enough at night where there weren't any cars coming the other way, so I didn't hit anybody. But I went over the other side of the highway.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, just if you're on the highway, gun it.
Be on the lookout.
Mm-hmm.
I do love the stories about the time travelers who have come back to tell us what's going to happen. These guys that are on TikTok, they go, hey, I know this sounds crazy, but I am a real time traveler, and I've got news for you. Everybody listen up, because I am literally from the future. Although I got to tell you, this guy's not blowing my mind. This guy says he's a time traveler from the year 2671. And he says that 2024 is going to, wait for it, be full of natural disasters. What? Oh. He said 2024 is going to include a 17-mile wide tornado and a 750-foot-tall tsunami. Doesn't say where. Oh, I'm sorry. The 17-mile wide tornado is going to hit Houston, Texas.
I'll tell my sister.
February 17th.
That's the day after my birthday.
That's a hell of a Valentine's Day gift.
Mm-hmm. Michael Jordan's birthday.
In April.
Wait, it's on the 17th and it's 17 miles wide?
Coincidence? In April, a 9.8 magnitude earthquake is going to hit California.
Pop, pop.
Causing major damage in cities like San Francisco and Los Angeles, and then that'll create the mega tsunami. But, I'm always...
what's going on in Iceland right now?
Yeah.
Where the volcano's erupting?
Yep.
And it's that is wild.
But again, when these people go, I'm from the future, okay? 2671, this guy says he comes from. Why so far back?
And
Why would you go so far back? I mean,
well, that's when it was invented, and so now he's quantum leaping. He's got to go through time a few times to warn people.
is that what
Now,
it is?
also, is he super rich? Is he betting on sporting events and winning? Because that's the idea, is that you're going to do that and make a bunch of money, right?
But okay,
You're just here to warn us about
the guy is
natural disasters?
He has come from 2671. Okay, that's 648 years from now.
Yeah,
If you were a time traveler from now,
yeah.
would you go back to 1375? No.
The plague.
Yes.
I don't know what's going on. I don't have enough knowledge of what's going on in the 1300s to
You
really...
nailed it. I mean, what useful info are you possibly going to have for people during the Black Plague?
Look out for this mofo, Christopher Columbus. People are gonna act like he's cool, but he kind of sucks.
What are you going to tell me? Hey, wash your hands.
Yeah.
Don't sign the Treaty of Bruges. Whatever you do.
Also,
648 years. Like,
no one would understand him
No.
the language is so wildly different. Even if you speak English sounded incredibly different.
yes. First of all, there
600 years ago.
is no America 648 years ago.
Yeah.
So you're talking to people in England or Europe or, Genghis Khan's son is walking around. Hey, Jeffrey.
Hey, Alan, how you doing?
How are you, pal? Jeffrey LaRoque, everyone.
Well, you guys mentioned about, cars getting wrecked by deers. Well, it happened to me back when we were in the old studio. I was driving in from work, and I hit a deer and it caused like $4,000 of damage to the previous vehicle I had. Lucky thing is, I lived to tell about it.
Wait, Jeffrey,
what I heard.
you hit a deer near our old studios at Oak Tree?
No, it was on the freeway coming into work.
Oh, okay.
I can believe
Yeah,
it though.
it just jumped. All of a sudden, just jumped right out in front of me. I couldn't even avoid. I wasn't able to avoid it.
What were you driving at the time?
A 2008 Kia Sorento.
Oh.
Poundcake, isn't that what you drive?
That's not what I drive.
What do you drive?
I have a Kia Seltos.
Same thing.
But
Kias that start with S. Same thing. So, Jeffrey, was that something that you could get fixed, or was the car like a loss?
They took it as a loss because the amount of damage to the vehicle outweighed its value.
Right, you were underwater on the car after you hit the deer.
Yeah, the insurance gave me money for it, and I was able to acquire another vehicle though, so I was very fortunate.
You're not calling me while you're driving now, are you?
Yeah.
All right. Well, he's learned his lesson and he's out there. Are you on the highway?
No. I'm less than a block from home.
Okay, good.
I don't even fault him for hitting deer if he was like on Oak Tree, because there were deer all the
There are
time.
always deer hanging out.
Yeah.
And
Deer and geese just love that area.
Geese, they'd send the dogs out to get the geese.
like that was like a industrial parkway or whatever they want to call it, but there were deer there all the time, and they would not move for you when you're leaving.
Jeffrey, what are you driving now?
Everyone crazy.
No, I just got a 2012 Chevy Malibu.
Oh, he upped himself by about 4 years. Chevy Malibu, okay.
Jeffrey's had like 9 cars in the past few years.
9 cars. And as such, you haven't hit anything yet in this car, yeah?
No,
All right, keep it that way, pal.
that's the whole idea, my friend.
Right.
You guys have a good show. I'll
All
talk to
right,
you later.
thank you,
See you
pal.
at the Christmas party, bud.
There's Jeffrey LaRoque checking in from the Chevy Malibu. Almost home. Getting ready to
Driving 2
lock her
hours away to
down
get
for
some
the night.
groceries.
There you go. Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that's it. That's like his thing. He's like, I got to drive all the way out here to get my groceries.
Was he in a food desert?
No, not at all.
Oh,
That's
I see.
just it's something I've heard on the show before, where he takes really long drives to
get groceries?
get groceries, just whatever. But it's always someplace really far away where he